But this is how intentional God is. The same thing that kept me away from church, the people, at the beginning, God used the people to bring me back in. And I remember going to like Bible studies, and I remember some of the girls were just not very welcoming. Like, it was my first kind of experience. Like, they weren't very kind, they weren't welcoming. So when I got old enough, I didn't desire to go to church. Like, to be honest, I've been out of the church for a long time. So I was working, I had just moved to the Atlanta area, and I was working overnights with an older gentleman. He's passed away now. He would tell me like just stories, and I knew he was a follower of Christ. And I still believed. I remember my mom telling me, like, you need to get in church. You need to go to church. And I would be like, Mom, I have a relationship with God. But I didn't. We didn't learn that growing up. Like, I didn't know about the relationship. He would just tell me his stories. He wasn't, like, beating me over the head with scriptures or anything like that. He was just meeting me where I was, sharing his stories. I knew what he believed, but he wasn't forcing anything on me. And so then you came along. So God was already planting seeds. I was in such a dark place when you came. I talk about this too, the power of an invite. Because you didn't know what I was going through. You didn't know the space that I was in at that time. But God he'd already sent Elmas. Elmas was already planting the seed. And then here you came along, inviting me to church. That's all you did. But this is how intentional God is. The same thing that kept me away from church, the people, at the beginning, God used the people to bring me back in. Because before I ever heard you preach a message, it was the people. It was the hugs that I received when I came in. And nobody knew how I needed those hugs. I was so depressed at the time. I would go home from work on a Friday and not talk to anybody. I wouldn't open my mouth until I went back to work on Monday. I was in such a dark place. And I needed those hugs. You have always been concerned with, but what are you doing from Monday to Saturday? It's not just a Sunday thing. And there was just something that I experienced there. I was like, my relationship with Christ, there is not anything on this world, there is not a person in this world that can tell me anything about my God. Like, because now the same people that try to keep me out of church, like now my relationship with him is so solid. I understand people are flawed, but nobody could ever tell me anything about him.